He may tell the harvest of what's coming for the seeds that men have sown, but he will never tell a forever defeat. He always wins. He always wins. And right now, I've never seen the like of flesh and bone infusing themselves with microchips and everything else, trying to match wits with God. Now, let's go over here to Isaiah 40, and let's just see what they're competing with. Let's take a look at this. And I realize that demons don't like prophets. Devils don't like prophets. And if you'll notice in the last time in the book of Revelation, it is prophets that the Antichrist has to do battle with. And it says every time they open their mouth, a fire comes out and consumes everyone that would stand in their way. It's prophets that they fear, because prophets deal with the future, and prophets know what the sound that's coming before the event ever arrives, and this foils every plan they can bring on the scene. Now, you really need to think about this before you start criticizing prophets, because if you start downing prophets, or you start getting in, trying to put them down, calling them false, you want to see a false prophet. There's one all over the news right now. You can watch one everywhere you go. His name is Yuval Noah Harari. If you want to see a false prophet, that's a false prophet. So don't start calling other prophets false, because what you've got is, you say, well, that didn't come to pass. Add the word yet. Yet. Don't mean it's not. The virgin birth was prophesied in Genesis 3:15. But it didn't happen until about 4,000 years of human history. And it was the Lord himself gave that prophecy. Would you have called him a false prophet? No, it's because you're on the other side of the seed of the woman coming. Do you know how impossible that was for a virgin to conceive and bear a son? And people would nowadays have said, false prophet, false prophet, false prophet. You're going to keep saying false prophet until you're going to choke on a piece of spaghetti noodle, because you're just going to suck that mess right back down your throat one day. Leave it alone. It's the only thing standing mostly between you and the real false prophets. And whether you know this or not, they're trying to bring in a one-world government. They actually have the capability now of bringing the seed of the serpent, which was in this phony virus they said was viral, which ended up now having all the components of snake venom. It's the seed of the serpent coming into the arena to fight. And now they have made it the number one agent of transmission. They've made the seed of the serpent the number one agent of transmission. It makes you submit to what you can buy and sell. It makes you submit to where you can go, what you can do, what you can say. It puts you in the place that you can't travel, that you can't do anything unless the serpent seed tells you you can. And so now this is all coming out in the open. Universities are even discovering it. And it's the seed of the serpent that was prophesied in Genesis 3:15 and said the seed of the woman will crush your head or bruise your head and you'll bruise his heel. Well, we are the seed of the woman. We are part of Jesus. He's the head, we're the body, and it's our job now to step on the head of the serpent. So you have these false prophets. You need to watch the Church International broadcast on Sunday. Listen to that. Listen to the last Elijah stream that I did with Steve Schultz. Listen to that. Then go listen to Flyover Conservatives that I did with them, and put those three things together, and you will understand what they're doing right now. People say, well, it's just too wild. It's just too far out. I'm not the one talking about creating cyborgs. He is. He's the one that comes on with all the bathtubs full of money saying we're going to create cyborgs. I just told you why. He admitted they're doing it. They admit they're doing it. They admit they have to reduce the world's population down to where it's a biblical prophecy. They're the ones trying to open the bottomless pit in Switzerland. They're the ones doing this, and they're openly proclaiming it now because they believe they've won. But it's like we had a saying in the South. They're about to use the bathroom and fall back in it. That was in the days there was no bathrooms in the house. Now, I want you to see, let's see, they say we've gone beyond the God of the Bible because they're able to make Robbie the Robot on Lost in Space. Remember that? Lost in Space? Danger, Will Robinson, danger, Will. Because they can do that, he says we've gone beyond the God of the Bible. Well, let's just look at this. Because he said all the God of the Bible did was create trees, and all he managed to do, he said, was to create trees and tomatoes and giraffes, and I don't know what his obsession is with giraffes, but he's got one, with giraffes and people. Well, you know what? Let's see you do it, trash mouth. Let's just see you draw an image of something inside yourself in front of everybody and speak it into existence. Well, we can go beyond it. No, not until you can create dirt out of air. But then you got to create the air the dirt came through. You have to be able to create the original components before you're going to impress anybody. Only people you're impressing are those who don't want to live righteous anyway. Now, here's the thing. You say you've gone beyond the God of the Bible because all he managed to do was create your mouth that's speaking. You think all of this you're creating? Every bit of the potential inside you was put in you when he made the organic life. Oh, you foolish people. Now watch this. Let's just see. Okay, you've gone beyond the God of the Bible. You've made a Robbie the Robot. You've shot things into people that you can press buttons on computers and make them react and do whatever. You've done this. You think you're going to be able to control the world. Let's see what the God of the Bible actually did here. Isaiah talks about it. Isaiah is your biggest enemy, isn't he? He really is. You know, watch this. He says, who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand and meted out heaven with a span? The Hebrew says a 9-inch span. Now, you said, false prophet, that it was the Hebrew Bible. You admitted it's the God of the Hebrew Bible. You didn't say it wasn't one. You just said it's him you're dealing with, that you're going beyond. Well, you speak for your God. I speak and stand here and let him speak to you through me. A prophet on this side. You're not a prophet. You're an imbecile. Now watch this. Who hath measured the waters in the hollow of his hand and meted out heaven with the span? Now, the hollow of his hand is like this. Now, how big is God's hand? Well, people say, no. Because in the Hebrew Bible, it talks about a 9-inch span from here to here. So his hand, my span is just almost 9 inches. So now you've got a size of God's hand. Now you know what Jesus' hand looked like and how big it was. And he measured the waters in the hollow of it like this. And he meted out all the heavens with a 9-inch span. Look how brilliantly he's calculating everything. And he says he comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure and weighed the mountains in scales. He's got these little set of scales. He weighed the mountains out. He knew exactly how much moisture would be in the earth, what it would take. He knew how much dust would be there by holding the water in his hand and measuring out the dust and the heavens. He knew exactly the size of everything, calculating it all. What kind of mind is this? And you're making Robbie the Robot. And he's creating from nothing, speaks the water into existence and then weighs it. Puts the mountains into existence and then weighs them. Measures the heavens, speaks them into being and then measures them. Oh, dear Lord. And he put the mountains in scales and the hills in a balance. And what you may not realize, and I think you do, you demon of darkness, I think what you realize is that what you don't want the people to know, and I might as well tell them, is that when he weighed it out, he created a government. He's speaking of not only creation, but a creation in which how it will operate and how it will move. Everything is in balance. Everything is a balance. And it's the government of seed, plant, and harvest. And you can't get away with that because you were a seed, you got planted, and you grew up. Think about it. You can't, none of you wicked people can get away from that. And so you think, well, he's got, him and his Robbie the robot running around in his RC cars doing all these things. Well, let's see what happens next. He said, who hath directed the Spirit of the Lord? Oh, this is the Holy Ghost that figured all of this out. Or being his counselor hath taught him. No one taught him. Who taught you? Who taught you? All you had was other piles of dirt teaching you. All you had is other people who have to go to the bathroom just like you do. But nobody taught the Spirit of the Lord. With whom took he counsel? Nobody. Who instructed him? Nobody. And taught him in the path of judgment. And that's talking about his government. And taught him knowledge. And showed him the way of understanding. Who? The prophet asked. Nobody. Behold, the nations, oh, here it is, are as a drop of a bucket, are counted as the small dust of the balance. The nations that these World Economic Forums seek to control, the nations they say they have control of, said they're just little specks of dust in the bucket of that balance he weighed out. And you're going to sit down there with your little peep mouth and shout at the Almighty. And you're in the bottom of a little bucket down at the bottom. He's already weighed you. Now, here's what you want to avoid. Anybody that's still got any conviction in their heart needs to listen to this prophet right now. You want to avoid going over a line to where you're weighed in the balance and found wanting. Because once that happens, your kingdom is over. You need to read Daniel to find that out. And so here's all the nations that you think you can control. Well, we're talking to the nations, and we're standing up in this forum of the nations, and we're talking about things like this. And you have people like John Kerry sitting with you and doing this. I remember when I heard a conversation when the leader of Iran and someone else talking one time. I heard their conversation, saw them speaking to each other. And when I heard the conversation, they said, what are we going to do now? What do we do now? They said, let's give them Kerry. Let's throw him out there. This was their words. He's no good for nothing anymore. And within 21 days, he was found out, uncovered for talking about Israel's secrets to their enemies. They threw him out there. So you've got people that's not real brilliant sitting behind you. Just having money don't make you brilliant. Having a lot of money don't mean anything. All the people you say don't matter anymore, all the populace and all the people that do the living and the dying in this world is who gave you that money. It's all of them that worked for that, not you. And so you think you're going beyond the God of the Bible. Well, look, listen to what he's done. He measured the waters in the hollow of his hand. He meted out the heavens with a span, a 9-inch span. He comprehended the dust of the earth in a measure. He weighed the mountains in scales and the hills in a balance. Who has directed the Spirit of the Lord? Or being his counselor has taught him? Nobody. With whom took he counsel and who instructed him? Nobody. And taught him the path of judgment? Not you. And taught him knowledge? Not you. And showed to him the way of understanding? Not you. Behold, the nations are as a drop of a bucket. They've already been weighed. You can't have them. They've already been weighed. God has already weighed the nations. You can't have them. They're in his balance. And they're counted as the small dust of the balance. Behold, he taketh up the isles as a very little thing. And Lebanon is not sufficient to burn, nor the beast thereof sufficient for burnt offerings. All the nations before him are as nothing, and they are counted to him less than nothing, and vanity. To whom then will you liken God? Or what likeness will you compare him? The workman melteth a graven image. Now listen to all your AIs you're building. Listen to all your cyborgs. Listen to the end of them. The workman melteth a graven image, and the goldsmith spreadeth it over with gold, and casteth silver chains. He that is so impoverished that he hath no oblation chooseth a tree that will not rot. He seeketh unto him a cunning workman to prepare a graven image that shall not be moved. Have you not known? Have you not heard? Hath it not been told you from the beginning, from the beginning, from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundation of the earth? It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in, that bringeth the princes to nothing. He maketh the judges of the earth as vanity. Yea, they shall not be planted. Yea, they shall not be sown. He's talking about a time when they shall not be planting or sowing here in your world. You think of this. Yea, their stock shall not take root in the earth. He's speaking of these hide-covered beings. Can you see that? He's speaking of the creatures these people are speaking of creating now. So you're going to go beyond him, and he's already talking about you thousands of years ago. He says, and he shall also blow upon them, and they shall wither. That's the breath of the lion that's coming. And the whirlwind shall take them away as stubble. To whom then will you liken me? Or how shall I be equal, saith the Holy One? Lift up your eyes on high, and behold, who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number. He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might. For that he is strong in power, not one faileth. Why sayest thou, O Jacob, and speaketh, O Israel, my way is hid from the Lord, and my judgment is passed over from my God? Why do you say? And it's amazing, isn't it, that the one proclaiming all of this is Jewish. Hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary? You go to sleep every night. There is no searching of his understanding. You have to have a computer to understand. He giveth power to the faint. To them that have no might he increaseth strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. And you can read on through chapter 45, and you see how it's told over and over that God is God and there is none other. So now let's see all of you compete with that. Just these verses 12 through 17. Let's just see if you can do that before you create your Danger Will Robinson toy. You need to do this first. You remind me of the story, all you scientists of the earth that don't know God. You remind me of the story where men and God was in a competition. And God said, they said, let's have a competition. And the Lord said, okay. The Lord said, well, let's create a man. We'll both create a man. And science said, okay, no problem. So they go over there and start raking up dirt. And the Lord said, hold it, hold it, hold it. You have to get your own dirt. And competition ended. Because they can't create the dirt. Well, we can make organic life in a laboratory. No, you can't. No, you can't. You're still taking stuff God had already made and putting it together. Hey, we can do test tube babies. I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. There's test tube giraffes. I watched them. I'm not impressed. Now make the sperm and the egg, and now I'm impressed. You can't do that. And you got to make it out of nothing but your words. Folks, we are in a time where the Bible says if it was possible, even the very elect would be deceived. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. That's the government. They can't get away from the government. They're trying to form a new world government that would only still act on seed, plant, harvest. But you can't get there because you've sowed the seed to destroy yourself. So, I want to tell you what time we're in. We're going to look at Isaiah. The devil hates Isaiah's book, so we'll stay there a little while. Isaiah chapter 63. And this is what the Lord told me. He said, when they did what they did to Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago, when they invaded his home, the Lord said they triggered these scriptures right here. They triggered Isaiah 63 verses 1 through 6. And I want you to listen to what it says. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah? That's amazing right here that the word Edom means red. The word dyed means an agitated or grieved garment. Agitated and grieved with this red garment. Bozrah is the word deception and treachery. So it said, who is this that cometh from the red with agitated garments and agitated at treachery and deception? I'll tell you something. He goes on to say, this that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Listen to the prophet Isaiah ask. You know, Isaiah was really cool. Isaiah was amazing. He always asked questions. Have you ever noticed that? Isaiah was a question asker. I don't know if you've ever noticed that or not. He's asking questions all through here. Over here we just read in Isaiah 40, who has done this? Who has done that? What is this? And then he gets over, remember prophesying about Lucifer's fall in Isaiah 14. He said, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? He's always asking questions. A prophet. This tells you something. He is in tune with God and the world of the Spirit, that he can ask him personally what he's doing. Now watch this. So now put this in perspective, and this is where we are right now. Who is he that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save, the Lord answered. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? And the Lord answers, I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. You listen to this. He said, who is this, Isaiah asked, that's coming from the red with agitated at treachery and deception? Coming from the red. It's not, everybody knows the Democrat Party's evil. It's not the Democrat Party that's so evil. I mean, that they are evil, but it's not them you have to be concerned with. Everybody knows they're wicked. Everybody knows they're evil, but it's not their evil that you have to be so concerned with. They wake up in the morning evil. They breathe evil. They think evil. Anybody that can kill their own unborn and sell their body parts has reached the epitome of evil. It's not them. It's those in the red It's those in the land of the red that has agitated his garment, that has made him where he's agitated and grieved at treachery and deception. And so when they finally pulled the last straw and they touched his anointed David, then the time of the lion began. The time of the lion started at that moment. When that happened, he said, who is this that's coming from the red, agitated at deception and treachery? Isaiah asked that. He said, it's... And the Lord starts talking to him. Now stay with me, because I'm not in a big hurry, and I hope you're not. He said, wherefore, Isaiah asked again. Aren't you glad he asked questions? Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that's been stomping grapes, and the blood of the grapes spraying on him? He answers the prophet, I have trodden the winepress alone, and all of the people, the word there is in italics. It really says, and of the people, none with me, for I will tread them in mine anger. Who? Those that have grieved him out of the red. And I will trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. This is what we have to look forward to. That was the day of vengeance that triggered this event right here, at least in our time. It triggered that event, and the year of his redeemed, that's us, has come. And I looked, and there was none to help, the Lord said. And I wondered that there was none to uphold. He said, therefore mine own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me. I will tread down the people in mine anger and make them drunk in my fury, and I will bring down their strength to the earth. Listen to what he said. He said, his own arm brought salvation to him, and his fury upheld him, and he will tread down the people. What people? Those that agitated him from the red. Folks, this thing had got very serious. There has been deals made in a back room in the last 2 to 3 weeks now. There has been deals made, I'll say more about it later, and they're already planning on doing some things, but they're not counting on the lion coming. They're not counting on it. And I'm going to tell you, so, well, all the people did their job. All the people voted. 80 million of them voted. And they brought in God's David by landslides, you would say. But a landslide is messy. Everything on the hill comes down. And that's what they were afraid of. And so the people did their job. This is the time between God and his prophets. If you will notice, there's only 2 people in this scriptures, in this Isaiah 63 speaking. It's a prophet talking to his God, and it's God talking to the prophet. If the prophets, if you shut them all down and there's one who won't shut up, he will come. He's talking to his prophets. This is the time between God and his prophets. The people listened, and they did their job, and they voted, and they did everything they were supposed to do. This is like Moses and God before Pharaoh. Anytime tyranny has to be broken, put down, cast away, it always comes down to a prophet and God. Because all God needs is one person who wears the mantle of a prophet that will declare his word, and he can do the job. Hallelujah. I can't hear you shouting, but I assume you are. Or I believe you are. Don't assume anything. Now, here is the thing. So it's between Isaiah the prophet and God talking. When they did that, then they triggered these scriptures. They brought it into our time. Now, what is a prophet? What is the thing about a prophet? Now, let me say this, and then I'll close. I probably went a while today, huh? The Lord spoke to me about this. He said, we live in a very unusual time for prophets and kings. There is a deception in both circles, and it is time like never before to know the rules of both. Let me talk to you about a prophet a minute. A prophet brings the court of heaven on the scene. In other words, if God's going to try a king, he does it like Nathan the prophet. Nathan the prophet, I'm talking about the mantle of a prophet. Now, I'm not talking about people who prophesy. And I'm not talking about because the gift of the Spirit can do that. I'm not talking about people who study Bible prophecy. I'm talking about the mantle of a prophet. The mantle of a prophet is hard at times. And this is why only God, only the Lord can judge a prophet. Only the Lord can judge them because they're His servants.
with milk